Good morning. It's February 22nd here in St. Paul at the Capitol. Yesterday they let out the district maps and everybody is busy in corners talking and whispering and trying to figure out where they belong, who's going to run against whom, and who is actually even going to run at all.
An additional thought or two on reapportionment. It was difficult to know the exact impact of the maps because as of late yesterday there was no detail. So, like for example, State Representative Kim Norton, the line separating the North District from the South District was so close to where she lived, she wasn't sure until early evening whether or not she was in what was pretty much her old district or she had been put in with Tina Liebling. On the whole, it looks like Rochester incumbents have pretty much ended up with districts that would allow them to be reelected. There's no pairings. Statewide, there are some interesting pairings, including Majority Leader Matt Dean put in with another Republican, Kara McFarland. There's a lot of, every time there's a reapportionment, there are pairings, there's open seats. These reapportionments are always very disruptive of the old order. My guess is, if you look at the makeup of the legislature in 2010, before the election, if you look at an old blue book or red book, and then you were to look at the legislative manual or red book that comes out after the next election, I would not be surprised to see an almost 50% turnover in the makeup of the legislature. As to the question about who are the winners and losers in this, which party benefited, which party maybe didn't benefit from it, the election will be the final arbiter of that.
In visiting the reviser a few days ago, we're having drafted the bill that would allow school boards to transfer funds without legislative approval, with the exclusion of community education, food, and anything that has some federal dollars in it. So we will see how that is received. Representative Norton is the one who is having that drafted. Yesterday in House Education Finance, we heard a bill by Representative Erickson, or Chair Erickson, which would allow school districts to come together and do some pilot projects to do some consolidation and do some innovation. It was very interesting because the bill took about an hour and a half, and different people testified that they liked it, the superintendents and different groups. However, it is already possible to be done in law, and that was stated during the hearing that school districts could come together and do this, and this is just more of a reminder to them to get them to think outside of the box. Today in Education Finance, Representative Quam would have had House File 1858 that required school district operating referendum to be held in even number years. That was pulled off the agenda for today, but it will be on for tomorrow. Today they will also be hearing Rep. Chair Garofalo's House File 2037 for community ed, school readiness, and early childhood family education. The final balance, the penalties for having any fund balance will be eliminated. The interesting bill that we've been watching closely is the online learning bill of Representative Myra. They took the first 5 minutes of the hearing yesterday and passed the bill. It still has an unfunded mandate, and when all the other bills have been heard, Chair Garofalo said he realized that he hadn't given any time for testifiers. He still did not allow any testifiers to speak. But when questioned by Representative Greiling, Representative Myra said that she wants every student in the state to take one online learning course, and in essence that is an unfunded mandate. It did pass and will go to the floor. Yesterday also in Ed Finance, Representative Bills had House File, I believe it's 329, that would prohibit using public funds to advocate, pass, defeat, or support any political candidate, ballot question, or pending legislation. He did, however, delete the section in there that said that you could not use public funds for any issues that were in front of the school board or in Congress. So you could still use public funds from the school district to do those two things. It was somewhat controversial, but it passed in the end to go to the floor, and it put the cap on being able to send home anything in anybody's backpack, for teachers to put any signs up in their windows. I don't know that it goes as far as bumper stickers on cars, but it was pretty definite that you could no longer have your political opinions be known while you're using any school funds or on school grounds. Yesterday in the Senate, they had their second hearing on what is now House File 1870, the unrequested leave of absence by Senator Wolf, and I do believe that that did pass. That took 3 hearings in the House and has caused quite a bit of discussion. Today, they're going to hear Senator Stump's bill, Senate File 451, so school district's career and technical levy formula modification, career and technical credit requirements, so that all students would have to take a course in the technical area and get a credit for that. It's also another unfunded mandate. One thing that we would want to pay attention to is a PSEO bill that is up today in education in the Senate. That is the one that allows students to take those classes earlier. And also, Senator Nelson has Senate File 1071, which proposes the transition plan for high school students to successfully pursue post-secondary education and employment opportunities. That actually passed the Senate floor. Representative McFarland has it in the House, and it has yet to be heard or have a hearing.
I think this session is increasingly looking like the session that didn't happen. People are here. I think we're confusing motion for action. And there's even less motion than we have in a lot of sessions. So unless things really come together in the next 3 weeks when the first deadline comes, they got a lot of scrambling to do to make this a very productive session.
As I said earlier, things are somewhat calmer here at the Capitol as everybody is trying to figure out where they belong. The next big thing out will be the budget on March 5th, and that certainly will have an impact. First deadline is coming up, March 16th, and hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week.